you can't see it, please do move so you can see it. So my name is Madison Blake, and
I'm Shelenberger.
and we're both students at Florida State University. I'm in my second year of my master's in piano performance.
And I'm in my first year of my master's in piano pedagogy. And Madison and I are both class piano TAs. This is my first year as a TA and Madison's second year.
Yes, so today we will be presenting to you all some of our experiences, our TA diary, so to speak, where we'll be talking about our experiences we've had and things we have learned along the way.
So regarding group piano, there are a lot of questions that have gone through our minds since becoming TAs. It's a fairly new territory with a lot of unknowns, especially coming from a background of primarily teaching private lessons.
Yes, so some of the questions that we will address today are things like how do we teach harmonization and sight reading? How do we present ourselves professionally? How do we reinforce what our students are learning in theory and aural skills classes? Is there any, how do we, classroom management? Those are a few things we're going to be talking about today. So to begin with, our overview, we'll be talking about university group piano classes, and we will be discussing strategies for teaching sight reading, harmonization, and reinforcing music theory and aural skills.
Yes, and we'll also be pointing out the logistical challenges dealing with technology, such as Classroom Maestro and Visualizer, and classroom management, as well as varying levels of students. And finally, we'll talk about how to present ourselves professionally to a group of people that are really close in age to us.
So to begin with, some logistical challenges are teaching large classroom sizes. A lot of our classes that we teach range from about 12 to 16 piano students. So that makes it challenging sometimes to make sure everyone's participating, staying on task, and everyone's participating in the activities together. So students in our classes come with a wide range of piano experience. Some have upwards of 6 to 7 years under their belts. Others have none at all. They've never seen a piano before. One way that we found that we can accommodate varying levels is through pair activities, or what I like to call the mentor-buddy system. So this is where we pair more advanced students with those who are struggling. So since it's impossible as teachers for us to give individual attention to all of our students at the same time, this enables those who are struggling to get the one-on-one attention that they need and provides valuable teaching experience for the more advanced student. Additionally,
So, typically in the classroom, students can get distracted, they can do their own thing, especially with being in headphones. So sometimes you have to be very firm but kind, because sometimes students will just play on their keyboards while I'm teaching, and when that occurs, it's often necessary to just tell them to stop playing while I'm talking, or just hit mute to mute their keyboards.
Exactly. Something we strive to instill in our students is independent learning. So we accomplish this through providing them with step-by-step strategies that they can then easily transfer to other musical activities. One of these ways is through what I call the 4 basic features of sight reading, which we will talk about later.
And finally, we must also find a balance of activities involving the whole group, in pairs and as individuals, where you can help them one-on-one. And sometimes we find it helpful to introduce new concepts in group settings or in pairs, and then reinforce those in the individual practice, or in pairs where they both can figure out something on their own. Oh yes, and here's a photo of one of our classrooms. You can see the room set up with electronic keyboards, headphones. We have a dot cam projecting Madison's hands on the keyboard, showing them the chords, and circled there in the middle of the room is the visualizer, which lights up when you play and enables them to see what you're playing.
So the next thing we're going to be talking about, for our next section, we're going to be doing some demos of how we teach harmonization and sight reading. So as you all know, sight reading is a very important skill for all musicians to have. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the first thing I do in a class when we're looking at a new sight reading example is to ask them, okay guys, what are the 4 things we need to remember? And so I always point out key signature, time signature, hand position, and patterns. while there are many more, of course, that we could talk about, I found that limiting it to 4 things has helped my students stay on topic and focus without being too overwhelmed. So, Christy is going to represent our class for a moment. So, Christy, what is the key signature that we're in?
We're in G major.
In G major, what's the time signature?
4/4.
What about hand position?
So we're in the G major 5-finger.
Very nice. Where does it change?
Measure 4 when the left hand goes down.
Exactly. What about patterns? What patterns do we see?
Measures 1 through 4 looks really similar to 5 through 8.
That's very, very true. What else do you see?
Later on, the left hand has some broken chords.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good. So after we point out these things to our students, I would then give them about 60 seconds to silently soak in everything that they can about a given example. I'm not going to have Christy do that right now because I think she's got it. But we would do that at that point with the class with those things in mind. So Christy is now going to represent the class, and I would like everyone, since most people probably know this song, to please sing, tap, clap along, or a Weema-wep with me. So, a Weema-wep, a Weema-wep, a Weema-wep. Volunteer from the audience. Can we have a volunteer, please? Anyone? Please, come on down. Yes. So, similarly to the way that we start looking at a sight reading example, we use some of those same principles when doing harmonization. So, to begin with, we like to ask our students some of these same questions. So, we'll ask you, please have a seat. Yes, yeah. So, what key are we in? C, and what is our time signature?
Cut time.
Cut time. What beat do we come in on? If you're gonna count, let's count it like it's in 4. Let's count like it's in 4. So this would be
During week 3.
right, the and of 3. What do we notice about the rhythm? Anyone else can answer these questions as well, not just our class. There's some syncopation going on, so let's be aware of that. We would first have them sight sing it. So let's sight sing this together. I'll count us all in. Again, we're coming in on the and of 3. Can I hear a C major chord? All right, so we're coming in on what scale degree? 5 or sol. So 1 and 2 and so do mi, so do mi, and 1 do ti la sol, so ti re, so ti re, and 1 sol ti re do. Very nice. And after this, we would have our students sight play the melody on the piano, and they have that in their heads. So making sure that they have the right hand placement is also very important. So in measure 3, our hand placement is going to change to left. We're going to move our 4th finger, so be aware of that. And we would point out where the other fingering changes. Where would that be? Do you see? Measure 7. And then in the final bar, what are we doing? Crossing over to our 2nd finger. All right, can you play this for us? In the audience, we can clap, tap, beatbox, whatever you would like to keep time with us. All right, so 1 and 2 and 3. Right hand only. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, Chrissy's going to take it from here. What do we do next?
Right, so now that we've sang and then read the melody, now we're going to talk about the harmonies, so the left hand chords. So how many harmonies do we see in this example? relationship between the tonic chord and the, let's do 5-6-5, and then have them spell out the chords. So can you please spell out a...
But wait a second, Ms. Shelenberger. How do we know that we're supposed to play a 1 and a 5 in this example?
Oh man, so the way you would know that is by looking at the melody and seeing what scale degrees or solfege are we playing. So in measure 1, what scale degrees are we playing?
1, 3, and 5.
1, 3, and 5. So what chord would go with that?
Tonic chord.
Tonic chord. Can you please spell the chord?
C,
Yes. And can you please spell a 5, 6, 5?
B, F, G.
The F, G, correct. All right, so for the first measure, what chord would we play in the left hand?
1.
Next.
1.
And then?
So now we would divide the class in half and have one play the harmonies and one play the melody. So we'll do that now. And then switch.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Lovely. Very nice. Thank you so much for your help. All right. And then after that, we would have students try to put both hands together as well after switching parts. So the next thing we'd like to talk about is reinforcing music theory and aural skills in our piano classrooms. So much of what we teach in group piano reinforces what the students are learning in those classes. For example, the piano provides visualization of intervals. So a vocalist or an instrumentalist can't physically see what a minor third or a perfect fifth is using their voice on their own. But on the piano, this makes it very easy because you can actually see the distance and count the number of notes that are right there. This also helps students learn how to build chords easier, and it enables students to hear multiple voice parts simultaneously, which then encourages good voice leading habits, and it helps them write more interesting melodies when they get into model compositions because they can play it themselves, and they end up making more musically informed decisions that are usually more interesting when they can play it for themselves. We have gotten this question before. 5, 6, what? So you can answer that question.
Similar to private teaching, most of the time the method books aren't enough, so we'll need supplementary materials. So in group piano, textbooks are a bit outdated, so it doesn't have a lot of the students' favorite tunes. So we like to provide them with additional online resources or encourage them to bring in pop songs or choral scores. We can use our university website portal to post these online videos for sight reading, harmonization, technique with scales, arpeggios, 5-finger patterns, that kind of thing.
And my favorite day of the year teaching is the day before we have midterms, where we have midterm Jeopardy. I just downloaded a Jeopardy PDF and we put in the material that we would be using for midterms to prepare the students. The students get very excited because we divide the class in half and then they compete against each other and they really learn. It encourages them to really know the stuff that they will be playing for their midterm, and I've seen students do a lot better as a result of this. Speaking of relating with young people,
We found that memes are great motivators, and because memes have essentially become a new language of their own, they're a great way to communicate with our students via class announcements on the website, or just projecting it on the screen, and here are some of the ones that we've used. And professional presentation. So, as mentioned before, we're very close in age to our students, and we look young enough to be their peers. And because we're teaching assistants and not faculty professors, and we're also students, but we're graduate students, we're kind of in this odd middle ground. And we've learned to ensure that our students see us as authority figures in the classroom through several factors. So, for example, how we carry ourselves. Is our posture good? Are we making ourselves look taller? Especially me, because I'm not very tall. I need to wear heels, I need to stand up straighter, yes. And also the tone and the volume of our speaking voices. The setup of the room influences this. Carpet likes to soak up the sound. Tile floors, your voices can carry farther out. And our attire, so dressing professionally is important. We really cross the threshold from student to teacher when we put on a blazer and dress pants, and it also helps to wear glasses as well. And finally, being professional in our communication, so when we communicate via emails and how students address us, so Ms. Blake, Ms. Shelenberger. And here are some teachers in action. So here's Madison casting a spell on the students.
Yes. And we've also, it's very important to call out those students like Christy's doing who aren't paying attention. Finally, we wanted to talk a little bit about our private teaching experience and how we relate what we teach in our group piano classes in our private studios. So oftentimes teaching harmonization and sight reading isn't the largest part of private piano lessons, but Christy and I have found that using some of the same tips and tricks like sight singing as well as the 4-step sight reading checklist to be very beneficial for our students' musical development.
Yeah, so I currently have an adult student who wants to learn just basic music theory and piano technique, and I'm finding that I'm utilizing the same teaching strategies that I'm using in class piano.
And these right here are just a few examples of some of the method books that Christy and I have taught out of before. And as always, it's just important to make sure that we're adding supplementary material that includes a focus on theory and aural skills and harmonization and sight reading. So right here, these are some pictures of our private piano students. You often wonder, why are we doing what we're doing? Well, it's because we really do want to provide our students with a positive and encouraging learning environment for joy-filled music making. And so here are some pictures from our private teaching, and this is one of my favorite things that a student has given me. Is they said, Madison pop star. So you too can be a pop star, yes. And here's some of our group piano classes as well.
And we hope you enjoyed our presentation. Thank you so much. XOXO.
Madison and Christy.